Hey guys, so before we proceed into the video, here's a little update for everyone. So this is a disclaimer for any interruption in the internet or the quality of the video of our speakers and on the host side. So if at all the audio is good, go ahead and leave your phone at the side and feel free to listen to the recorded audio chat. So always remember, it's not all about the quality of the video, but more towards the content of the video. So we really hope that you guys have fun and leave a comment below on what you actually learned, or if you would like to share your experience on this particular topic in the comment section below. So have fun, guys.
And if we make more good choices than poor choices, then we're on the right track. Eat well, exercise well, think well, then we as human beings can overcome any obstacle.
This program is brought to you by Reset app. It is an amazing app that equips you to be happy by flexing the positive mindset muscle. Many are benefiting from this, so go ahead and click the link in the description below. It's free. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel to stay connected. Hi everyone, welcome to this series of Being Human that we're doing. This is something that we dabbled upon to work on the part of being human. I have this favorite phrase that I use is that we are all human beings. We need to start being human. The reason why we're doing this is basically it's in conjunction with the World Mental Health Day, which is happening on the 10th October 2020. And we are having our own twist. So, being human, the reason why we're doing this episode is basically when we look at the trajectory that has taken place from the birth of the modern human till now, there's a lot of things that has happened. And if we don't change our trajectory, the future looks as how it is going to be. I am personally worried that the future won't be very exciting if we maintain this trajectory. The reason why I'm telling is that COVID-19, when the pandemic is still going on, when there's a lockdown in many places, the Mother Earth started healing herself. So that shows that when we stop certain things, world heals itself, which is good. So that's the reason why we're having this conversation, and we're bringing on board amazing minds, amazing speakers to talk about their talents, tools, and techniques and how they have bounced back and how they're performing their life in a high plane. The reason why we're bringing variety of speakers with variety of talents, tools, and techniques is basically we strongly believe that for mental health, which is a rampant thing that's happening now, there's no one size fits all. And I've been having this conversation with many people. They agree to that, even psychologists and all that. The reason is if you look at any book which talks about diet, that one diet program will not work for everyone. It'll work for some people. So based on that, we wanted to bring on a buffet spread of talents, tools, and techniques that people have used for us to understand and see whether it will be useful for us. For those of us, of you who have been diagnosed to have serious mental health issues where you need to have doctors looking after you, please do so. Again, when you're hearing about this, these are things that our panels have actually used to bounce back, and not necessarily our panels have gone through depression and anxiety. They've used these tools, techniques, or talents to bounce back from any kind of adversity to be able to perform a wonderful life.
So with that, I bring upon my good friend, amazing human being, Mr. David Jackson. I've known David for I think around going to be 9 years now. He's married to Romla and he has two lovely kids, Adam and Daniel. And I've seen these guys growing up too. David has been the GM, a general manager for KZ1, Global Center Berhad, for Malaysia and Singapore for the last 11 years. A long-term entrepreneur, formerly in banking and finance, so he knows about money. David's passion is his family's health and well-being, in addition to helping people become financially secure through entrepreneurship, personal growth, and leadership development. Now, David is an avid runner. He runs at least 10 runs between 5 kilometers to 15 kilometers. Currently, you must see him. He doesn't look his age. He's actually older, but he looks younger. Currently running about 35 kilometers per week. Amazing energy that he has. Whenever we sit down, he's very exuberant. He has been vegetarian for 8 years and vegan for 1 year. And today we're going to talk about food. Please help me to welcome David. Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, Siva. Good afternoon. Great to see you. Great to be having a conversation with you.
Yes, it's nice. We used to have a conversation in that boy and have a cup of coffee while you have some ice water, and that's it. We have this time. Someone will be hearing our conversation. I'm very excited with your journey because whenever I see how you manage and handle your habits and how you create a space for your family. When I see your kids, I'm amazed on the way they eat, and it all boils down to the environment that they're setting. So I would like to ask you, please share your journey with food on, how it impacted you, your journey of food. Just share with us your journey of food. Yes.
Sure. But just before I start that, if I can make 2 points. Number one, I do confirm I'm human, and I often, in filling in forms, I have to tick and say that I'm not a robot. So I guess that does make me human. Just to correct one point, that I in fact have 5 children. You see me with the two little ones, Adam and Daniel, but then I have 3 grown-up kids as well. Lewis, Felicity, and Kieran. They're grown-up adults and living in Australia. All 3 of them now, in fact, living in Australia. So
absolutely, say hi to them. Sorry, I've been seeing this guy. This is what you call awareness and consciousness. I missed them out in my consciousness, but I was aware with the two boys.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
So my journey with food. Well, I started my journey with food a long time ago. Yeah, I think probably day one on planet Earth, I was into food. So I've been having food of various types for a long time, and but it is a long time since I've had mother's milk. I'll admit that. My journey with food. Well, look, I was born and raised and grew up in Australia, and in a working class family, and I grew up in a diet that was normal in that time, in the mid 20th century in Australia. Lots of meat and vegetables as well. Probably a reasonably balanced diet, you would call it, meat and vegetables every meal, and probably in those days not much food that was processed. So maybe compared to the average Australian diet today, or the average Malaysian diet, the average Australian diet 60 years ago was probably pretty good. But, as I grew up and became an adult, of course, succumbed to all the temptations that are there with regard to food. And you name it, and I've eaten it. And I've had too many McDonald's in my life. And I remember when KFC first came into Australia, we, and a group of friends, we used to get a big bucket. You could buy a big bucket of KFC. Yeah, we thought that was fantastic. And so I do remember one experience with that. I was helping a friend paint his house, and using a paint that you had to use turpentine to get it off your hands. Yeah, you couldn't just wash it off, not a water-based paint. And someone came with the lunch, and it was a big bucket of KFC, and we didn't bother washing our hands with turpentine. We just used soap and water. So our hands were clean, but still covered with paint. And we then got in and was eating the fried chicken, and we realized fairly quickly that the paint came off our hands with the fat or the oil in the chicken. So, but we still enjoyed the chicken, but maybe we didn't lick our fingers after that episode. Maybe that was an early insight.
How old were you?
I would have been a late teenager by then.
Okay.
But an early insight into maybe the dangers of fast food. So look, I ate everything and did all of the wrong things with regard to food. But maybe 30 years ago, I was very fortunate to come in contact with a health mentor, And he gradually helped create an awareness in me of the power of food and the healing power of food and various techniques around food. So I'm forever grateful to that gentleman, Greg Fitzgerald, who's still a dear friend of mine, and I still seek him out for health advice periodically.
Wow.
And it was a gradual journey, I guess, over the last 30 years. And I've learned a lot as a lay person. And it's brought me to where I am today, a vegan. I've been a vegetarian for the last 8 years and vegan probably for coming on to 1 year now. Occasional lapses, but the older I get, the more disciplined I am. The older I get, the more I realise that the finish line is getting closer, so I got to keep pushing it out. So it's been a lifelong journey with food, and I've arrived at a place where I understand that what my body needs and what my body feels good consuming, and my body tells me when I eat things that I shouldn't, it just doesn't respond so well. So I guess that's part of the journey, is coming to listen to your body more and see how your body reacts in different circumstances, as a result of different foods. I don't know how detailed you want me to go.
But this is awesome. That's the beginning, and we're going to dive deep inside, right? Now, you said you've got to know about eating healthy food 30 years ago through a mentor, and 8 years ago you became vegetarian. Now, I want to know what was the transition, what transpired you to make that shift, because I know when a decision is made, it could be because of these three things, or you could shed some light in it. It could be either you just decided to change after getting all the information, or you wanted to resolve something. It could be some health thing that you wanted to resolve, or you were purely disgusted with something. A lot of people do that. I've known people who get into some severe crisis, health challenges, and then bang, they turn 180 degrees and everything changes for them. So what's the reason why this shift? And when it happened?
It was just a gradual awareness. Although one catalyst was a book I read called A China Study, and I think that was probably the catalyst for me giving up animal food, or giving up meat and chicken and fish. And China Study, it's a fantastic book, bestseller, scientific, but also very readable. And the summary of that study, it was a major study done by 3 universities, one in the US, one in the UK, one in China, and they collaborated and just studied the impact of food on the rural population in China, and which the rural population in China at the time of the study was basically vegetarian, and studying the impact of them as they moved into urban areas, or as urbanization came to them. And, it's quite astounding, the changes that happen in people's wellness when they go from a very basic, simple vegetarian diet to a sophisticated, what we would call Western diet. And so the evidence based on that book, that was the first book I read, and then many others subsequent to that, it was just that, look, animal protein was not meant for human beings. And, the research backs that up. So, and I do remember when I first decided to become a vegetarian, I was working with a guy that once a week was vegetarian. Now, and I think he was doing that for religious reasons, but I thought, well, I could probably do that, go one day without food, and I did, without meat, and I did, and it didn't cause me any significant drama or problem, so I just went another day and another day. And when we sort of embark on a challenge, if you like that, then sometimes we're driven to just continue with it. And I didn't find it difficult, and I didn't notice any dramatic improvement in my health or well-being at that particular time, but I knew it was the right thing to do, and that gave me, I guess, the resolve to stick to it. But and I do remember in the first few years I would occasionally, and particularly because I travel a bit, and sometimes I'd be out at KLIA and I just have this urge, and I'd sneak into McDonald's and buy a hamburger. Confession time. And for the first few years, and I'd hide in a corner, hoping that no one would see me. But I might, in the first few years, I might have done that a few times, but probably for 5 years, I haven't felt the need or desire to do that. Again, it was probably education, reading that book particularly, and that probably just reinforced views that I held anyway. Mm-hmm. And I guess also more recently, I've been influenced by many other people, but my adult daughter is a vegan, and she was vegan before me, although I was vegetarian before her, but for different reasons. I mean, I became a vegetarian, then a vegan for health reasons primarily. She became a vegan for humanitarian reasons, or she just is of the view that we just don't have the right to kill animals, and it's cruel to do so, and not only just kill animals, but raise animals the way they are raised for human harvesting is just absolutely cruel and abominable. And I agree with that, and so that's added, I guess, to my resolve to just not eat any animal products at all. So, that was probably the catalyst, an awareness, and then challenging myself and knowing in my heart that it was the right thing to do for my health.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You mentioned about the book China Study. That book was banned, right, by the medical fraternity or the FDA or something? Was it banned?
No, I don't think so. Not from my knowledge.
So it is out there.
But it is out there, and Colin Campbell, Dr. Colin Campbell, who is still alive. I watched a documentary recently where he featured it. I think he's in his late 80s now. And I mean, he grew up in rural USA on a dairy farm or a cattle ranch. And it was only as a researcher that he came upon research that started to indicate that animal protein is exceptionally bad in relation to cancer. So, it was only then that he became a vegetarian himself. So, and look, I mean, now there's so much information, and it's worth Googling or YouTubing Colin Campbell or the China Study, and just, you can watch a 5-minute YouTube and get some information if it's of interest to people.
Yes, and I remember reading that book, and these diseases that is rampant now, like cancer, diabetes, and heart ailments and all that, are termed as affluent diseases, right? In the area where people are affluent, so that also impacts the abundance concept, where when we have more, we tend to consume more than we need to consume, right? And we are paying the price. And you said that's interesting about KFC, right? It's a paint remover. It removes the paints. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, now let's talk about food and also mental health, because I believe there's a big connection between the gut and the brain. Okay, now I want to know from you, when you change from your normal eating habits, that is consuming meat and also other vegetable, prior to getting into being vegetarian and vegan, what is the shift in your mindset, your mental health? How did you feel? Did you feel much clarity? Did you, even in your body, did you feel lighter? Please share that, David, because I think as a person who's experimenting this, it's key, because I take a lot of vegetarian food. I eat more seafood. Sometimes I indulge some meat, but that's in a rare occasion. I have certain experience but I would like to hear your experience on when you shifted. How did you feel? How did your this amazing equipment work before and after change?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, firstly, I need to say I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not medically trained at all. And certainly nowhere near have an in-depth understanding of mental health, but just based on my own experiences. Look, there's been times in my life when, you know, I've looking back, I'm sure I've suffered from depression, but I can't honestly say that that was in any way diet related. That was, external circumstances related. And people, when I first started to give up meat, people would say, do you feel any different? And honestly, I couldn't say that I did, but when I look back now, after many years, I'm now at 69 this month. I'm fitter, healthier, stronger than I was 20 or 30 years ago. And, a big part of that is my diet, I'm sure. I just, right now, this year particularly, I don't have any sugar at all. We don't have any, we're a sugar-free house. And when I say sugar, we don't have any other sweeteners as well. There is a jar of organic honey in the cupboard. We touch that. I don't have it at all, but my two boys have it very, very rarely. A fraction of a teaspoon of honey. That's the only sweetener that we have in the house. And so it's not only sugar, it's all the other, even natural alternatives to sugar that we don't have either. So, it's not just being a vegetarian, it's shunning now anything processed. When we go to the supermarket, we do buy organically grown beans in cans. That might be kidney beans and chickpeas. We buy the organic dried beans as well to soak, but that comes in a can. That's the only thing we have in a can, and we just don't buy anything that's in a packet. We eat a lot of nuts and seeds, and we buy those raw, and we grind them and mill them at home to make flour. We eat very little grain. I don't eat, very, very little grain. It's just a whole food, plant-based diet. And I feel fantastic. I feel healthier, lighter, absolutely lighter, stronger, fitter than for decades and decades. And that's a result of my continually improving diet, combined with exercise and combined with an awareness that primarily thanks to you, the necessity to meditate, which is something that Romna and I have just started to do together. And, continuing to develop a positive mental attitude. We use the Reset app to remind us of the things that we want to have in our life that we don't have, and remind us of the blessings that we do have and the things that we should be grateful for. So I can't say that I gave up meat and all of a sudden noticed a dramatic physical or mental improvement. However, over the years of the process of refining what we eat and refining what and how we think, then I feel that I'm in a very strong mental health position. Sure, do I get upset? Do I get angry? Of course, I am human. Yeah, I am not the robot. And I do have, negative thoughts from time to time. But, we've learned, particularly with Reset and years and years of reading, that there's no value in holding on to a negative thought. And, so we very quickly get rid of the negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts. So that whole journey combined has brought me now to a place at 69 years of age where I have a far greater control over the way I think and respond to various circumstances. And if I respond poorly, then it's only for a short period of time. And then I, reset and get my mindset back on track. And as a result, I've got to say I'm happier now than at any time in my life, because I feel more in control of my life, and I'm healthy. And, it's helped me realize that there is just so much to be grateful for. And so, my understanding of mental health is that we all suffer from time to time. Times of darkness, periods of darkness, things happen in our lives outside of our control that might devastate us, and particularly right now with COVID. I personally know people that are financially devastated. And in the past, I have been financially devastated, and I know the toll that it can take physically and mentally. But I think that there's hope that if we can, learn to eat well, exercise well, think well, then we as human beings can overcome any obstacle. And there's
Absolutely.
libraries are full of books of people that have had unbelievably difficult challenges in their life and come through, and now live to tell inspiring stories, and we can all do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting, David, when I'm hearing what you're saying. Now, one of the things that I sense, when you say there's massive clarity now, you're happy and all that, could it be also because with all the things that the environment is throwing at you, with a lot of unhealthy choices of food, habits, there's so many things that's out there which you can put it as the affluent world is throwing at you. And you being there, you're able to construct your own environment, be disciplined enough, and to choose the right food mindfully and to eat that gives you a sense of control. That itself is a big tick for you to have a wonderful feeling about yourself. Could that be one of it?
Look, absolutely, Siva. I know that, if I am, at a nice hotel and there's a buffet, and sometimes I succumb to the temptation and will hit the dessert bar. And sometimes I'll resist the temptation and not. And I know that I feel proud of myself when I make that golden choice. And I know I feel not happy with myself when I make that toxic choice at the dessert bar. And simple choice to walk away or indulge. But that has, a psychological impact. I feel good when I make the right choice. And I feel good when I look in the mirror or get on the scales and see what my weight is and see that my BMI is at an ideal weight. Now, if I let my weight balloon and put on 5 or 10 kilos, I know, and I have done that in the past, I know I don't feel proud of myself. I don't feel good. So feeling good about ourselves is really important. And if we make more good choices than poor choices, then we're on the right track to feeling good. And when we do make the wrong choice, then let's not beat ourselves up endlessly about it. Let's just reset and make better choices next time. Use every toxic choice as a learning experience to make a better choice next time. I know that's easier said than done, yes, but I think it's right. Most people, if we thought about it, we would acknowledge we feel good when we make good choices. We feel good mentally. We feel proud of ourselves. We feel that that's the right thing to do. When we do the wrong thing, whether it's to ourselves or to somebody else, when we do the wrong thing, we have all sorts of negative feelings. And so doing the right thing by others and by ourselves, we have the reverse of that, all the positive feelings. And so if we just saturate ourselves with positive feelings all the time by making the right choices and doing the right thing, then we can't help but feel good about ourselves. And I'm sure that has a dramatic impact on our state of mental health.
And I also realized that's awesome, David, that you also say that in your home, there's no refined sugar, there's no any sort of sugar except for organic honey. And you've made the ability to choose to be in control by also making sure your environment is supporting you with that. I realized that because I've known some of them who would like to lose weight, but the refrigerator is filled with a lot of carbs and sweet stuff. So at 12 a.m., when they're hungry, when they come down, they should be sleeping by then. When they want to pull in something healthy, what comes out is a cheesecake. So that's amazing what you just said. I picked on that. Your environment is solid. So that's exciting. And now let us talk about something that you said, which is very important. Being in control, doing the right choice makes you to feel good. And as we all know, our body is a chemical factory full of hormones. And whenever we do good things, there's different sets of hormones that's being secreted. When we do something really, really toxic, we have a different set of hormones being secreted. We can call it cortisol. The other side, we can talk about dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, and all that stuff, right? Now, we also know that our gut is also known as the second brain, right? We are talking about, when we talk about mental health, we'll always talk about the brain, right? The most important faculty that allows us to talk and all that stuff to do, to have the senses and all that. But there's another brain which is called the gut, which is filled with microbiomes. And these guys are closely related to what we eat, right? And the best part is this, I'm sure many know about this because the information is out there. Serotonin is secreted from the gut. Serotonin is what makes you to be relaxed. And serotonin, in the term of the chemical world, it's something like antidepressant. It's like a Prozac. I don't know what other medicine I've never taken, where it calms you down. So when you have food, especially when you have, when you eat your content, you feel very happy. You will be smiling, and you don't feel stressed at all. And the reason why I'm telling is that there are many studies showing that when someone is depressed, they tend to indulge themselves with food. Basically, when you look at the science part of it, it creates a serotonin to make them to relax. So now, knowing that microbiomes are important and you are feeding yourself with the nutritious food into your gut, do you think that could be one of the reasons why you're also feeling happy and more relaxed rather than agitated? They say you are what you eat, right? So, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I'm certainly not a scientist, but I mean, it's what research I do, what reading I do. The gut is. I mean, I listened to an eminent professor, Harvard medical professor Sanjeev Chopra, who I think is the older brother of Deepak Chopra. Most Malaysians know of Deepak Chopra, or Sanjeev. Dr. Sanjeev is medical professor at Harvard, and he called the microbiome the newly discovered organ. It's just one of the hottest things in medical science over the last few years. So obviously, what we eat, I mean, because eating is something we do a lot of. We devote a lot of our energy to buying, preparing, and eating, food, and so it plays a tremendous. It would be naive to think that food does not have an impact on our mental health and our physical health. Food will have an impact on the amount of sleep we have, and so it has to be fundamental. And nutrition is fundamental. And one of the problems with food today is the lack of nutrition. Romna and I watched a documentary just last night or the night before, about regenerative farming. And this particular documentary, only a new documentary released, said that the world has only got 60 years of farming topsoil left. And we need to regenerate the topsoil around the world. And so this documentary was to raise awareness about that. So it's naive to think that we can eat junk and get away with it. And I don't think anyone would really believe that. But the fact is, if we eat an ice cream, we don't fall over with a heart attack. It doesn't happen instantly. So the pain comes much later, and we get the joy of the taste immediately. And that's the big dilemma for us as human beings. It's evolution has taught us to gorge on things when they're available. And so that's one of the issues we have, and that's where self-discipline comes in. But look, there's no question that the gut causes, 80%, 85% of our immune system is in the gut. And, that's exactly where the food goes. So we're eating junk food, then is it going to be good for our physical immune system? The answer has to be no, because most prepared food is, got lots of toxins and lots of chemicals, at least, lots of synthetics in it. So, our body's not designed to utilize nor absorb that. So the gut has to be the foundation. And like I've said, if we make good choices and eat good food, then it'll have a cascading positive impact over time. Our weight will improve, our sleep will improve, and our physical well-being will improve. Well, if all of these things improve as a result of eating better, then absolutely it has to have a dramatic impact on the way we feel about ourselves, on our mental health. Absolutely. It doesn't mean that if you're leading a very healthy and you're very fit and your diet is perfect, that you're not going to have mental health issues, because there are other externals that come into play in all of our lives. But gosh, if we're fit, if we're strong, if we're healthy, if we've got our mental awareness right, that we're thinking mostly positive thoughts, then we've got to have a better chance of, a good state of mental health, a good, stable, long-term state of mental health. So that's just my thoughts as a non-mental health.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have you ever experienced this, David, where when you ate some kind of food, certain food gets you rejuvenated, certain food makes you to feel sloppy? Have you experienced that?
Yes, sometimes what I experience, for example, if I was to have, something sugary, something sweet, something very tasty that I was craving, I'd probably feel good for a little while. A big hit of sugar, I think, can give us a boost in energy and maybe, a false feeling of well-being, but it's short-lived. And so you've got to go back and have another hit, a bit like smoking, because I used to smoke, and, you have a cigarette and you have a sense of well-being. It feels good. But then that wears off fairly quickly, and you've got to have another one and then another one. And that's the spiral downwards. So, food, I know that if I eat poorly, then I feel poorly. If I eat well, and by well for me, that means, whole food, plant-based, then if I eat well, then I feel well. I feel well physically. I feel that I've done the right thing by my body. I'm setting being the right role model for my family, and that makes me feel good. So I get a whole cascade of good feelings. Whereas if I, sneak into McDonald's and had a hamburger, then I'd know that I'm cheating on myself, I'm cheating on my family as a role model, and I would feel bad about it. And so that doesn't augur well for my state of mind. Now, doing it once every few years is okay, but making habit of that sort of thing, then it will have ultimately, I think, a devastating impact.
Yeah, I like what you said in the beginning, when you're cheating on yourself by grabbing a burger at McDonald's and finding a corner to eat secretly as if the whole world is watching you and there's no one watching you except yourself. It's Absolutely. Not a pleasant way to have food, right? Yeah. It's interesting. Just imagine the chemical reaction in your body as it is, the food is toxic, and there's more stress in you for eating, right? It's exciting. I also want to ask you, when people actually having a spree of good habit that's going on, maybe they're going for 21 days stretch to create a new habit, and then when they're on the 20th day, on the 18th day, they cheated. They ate some bad food, and then they say, damn, I broke my tempo. There goes my rhythm. You know what? I'm just going to start maybe next year. Do you think it's the right thing to do, or should they say, the heck, it's just one day. Why don't I just continue and count that as my 22nd, my 20th day, 21st day, and continue? Which one is the right thing, David? Because I know you have gone through this, right?
Yeah, sure. Look, obviously the right thing is to just correct, reset, and get back on track, and don't go back and have to start counting from day one again. Look, I think I've come to the realization, and this year particularly, that I have to develop eating habits that suit me personally, that suit my lifestyle, that help me achieve my own health goals, and that are sustainable. I don't believe that it's productive to go on a short-term blitz of good health and then go back to the normal eating habits. And that's what's wrong with conventional diets. You go on a diet program for 30 days and you lose X amount of kilos and you feel good, but then it was a 30-day diet program. So then what do? You go back to normal, and in most cases the weight comes on, and that's not sustainable, and that doesn't long-term do anyone any good, I don't think. So I think what I just realized that I have to create like I've learned from you over and over again, create the environment that I have to create my eating environment that is for me sustainable every day for the rest of my life, and that it fulfills my needs for every day for the rest of my life, and that's what I've done. And in this year I've lost a lot of weight, but weight has come off effortlessly. I haven't been on a diet. I haven't tried to lose weight. I just made some choices, some decisions, and I said, okay, I can do this for the rest of my life. And it just became my life. And the weight just disappeared. I didn't intend, I knew I would lose weight by making those changes, but the changes I made are for me, long-term sustainable. And absolutely, that's the key to leading a healthier life, is developing the habits that are for each of us individually long-term sustainable, that become enjoyable. Absolutely. And because if we have to make the tough decision every day or every meal time, then we're for sure going to come off the rails. So, and it
Absolutely.
comes, we've spoken about the environment, and yes, our food environment at home is 100% clean. And I find it easier to make a healthy food decision in the supermarket than at the refrigerator door. At the refrigerator door, I'm going to be tempted. If there's a cheesecake in there, well, it's going to be eaten, absolutely. But I can walk past it at the supermarket, no problem, particularly if I go to the supermarket just after I've had lunch or dinner and I'm not hungry, then it's easy to make the decisions in the supermarket. And then there's no decision to make at home because there's nothing tempting at home.
Absolutely. Amazing. This is awesome. Now let's come back to, the lockdown that we all have experienced, right? It actually caught all of us by surprise, and a lot of people have gone through massive challenges because of the thing called uncertainty. And I'm sure you and your family were also going through a situation. How did you handle that? How did you cope up during this time of a difficult time? During a lot of people say it's difficult time. For me, it was an amazing time personally for me. So how did you take it, David? How did your family embrace this change during the lockdown? How did you cope?
Yeah, sure. Look, I feel a bit reluctant to say, but the reality is it was a great experience for us. we were very fortunate in that our income wasn't affected. And, you know, it would be dramatically different if our income was halved or we lost our income. But we're one of the fortunate few that our income was not affected. And we just loved the experience, the four of us together. And the boys absolutely loved not going to school, and they loved mum and dad being around the whole time. And so for us, it was a very positive experience. And I particularly, you know, with regard to my food, took that opportunity to really, you know, to really strengthen my resolve to have better health. And I went on a 10-day water fast during that period of time. And it's not the first time I've done an extended water fast, but I did one a long time ago, maybe 30 years ago. I've wanted to do one for many years, but made excuses and, you know, thought, oh, I'm at work. And when you go on an extended water fast, it's optimal to rest as much as you can. So I just took the opportunity. Okay, I'm at home. I can't go anywhere, so why not go on an extended water fast? And I did 10 days with no food, and that was a fantastic experience. Now, I wouldn't recommend people do that without consulting someone, but because I had done it previously, I knew what to do, and I did reach out to my health mentor who supervised my first water fast, and you know, took some advice from him. But it was great, and you know, it helped me get my health seriously on track, and it wasn't such a difficult thing to do. I still most of the time sat down with the family at mealtime. I just had my glass of water and watched them, and I think during that time I helped prepare some food. So it was just making that decision. This is something I really, really want to do. I know it's going to be good for me, and I felt fantastic. And that's one of the reasons that the lockdown experience was great for us, because we made productive use of it. Thanks. I've got to say, Siva, thanks very much to your input over the years. And during the lockdown, we had a lot of input from you on Zoom, and that was great to help us stay on track. And so it just was an opportunity for us to spend a lot of time together as a family, and to get, in my case, my health, which was good, but just take it to a new level. And, you know, grateful for that experience.
Yeah.
I guess it, you know, again, that comes down to choices. I know some people made good choices. Some of my friends also during the lockdown made good choices and utilized the time by getting healthier and getting fitter and losing weight. And I know other people, you know, made not so great choices and probably, you know, put on weight and didn't do any exercise during that time. So in the end, look, our life comes down to, you know, it's our own life. We can't expect anybody else to make choices for us. The government's not going to make those sort of choices for us. Our parents, as adults, our parents can't make those sort of choices for us. It's up to us to make our own choices. And, you know, that's something that I've learned from you is, you know, get focused on making golden choices and eliminate the toxic choices from our life. We do that, we'll be healthier, we'll have better relationships, we'll certainly be more successful in the endeavors that we pursue, we'll be feeling better about ourselves. And if we feel good about ourselves, then you know, anxiety is less, depression is less. When I think back to the time 15 years ago when I wasn't diagnosed, of course, back then, but I'm certain with retrospect, with hindsight, that, you know, I went through a bout of probably fairly serious depression. I felt lousy about myself the whole time. Now and you know, people that suffer depression, there's no easy way out of it, and I can't really think how I got out of it. I just clawed my way out of it. But you know, I think if people that are suffering like that need to seek help, and fortunately, there's greater awareness now. Certainly, it doesn't have the stigma. If you need to seek a therapist or need to seek help, it's a good thing to do. And I know, particularly in Australia and probably other Western countries, lots of sporting icons and other famous people have come out and said, look, I have suffered, or I do suffer from depression, and it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to get help. And that's making good choices and feeling good about ourselves more often has got to be something that helps.
Very true. That's amazing. That's amazing. David, I want to ask you, because you have strict discipline on your food, you give your best to be very mindful. Mindfulness has played an important role in making golden choices. Now, I want to ask you, what is that one tool or technique or a talent that you use whenever you have some sort of difficult time, some adversity, it strikes you, for you to reset yourself and bounce back. There are people who might be wanting to see, hey, I relate to David, maybe I could try this to see how I can feel much better. It could be food, it could be a technique that you can share. It could be anything that has worked for you. It doesn't mean that it'll work for everyone. I always say that if they have been diagnosed to have some sort of mental health challenges, it's wise to go and see a therapist or a doctor, to sort things out. But however, we want to create this awareness that, there are, ways for you to be resilient. So how do you keep yourself resilient? What are the tools, techniques, or talent that you use in order to bounce back?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just off the cuff, I'd say a couple of things. I've found that exercise is great. I enjoy running, and I find that when I run or exercise, I spend more recently spending some time in the gym doing a range of exercises apart from running. But after a good physical workout, I feel great. And so, 6 days a week now, I'm doing about an hour of fairly strenuous physical exercise, and I feel great. And afterwards, and that gets me, gives me a good feeling throughout the day. And I'm sure that's the chemical reactions that are, happening in my body as a result of that. But it's more than that too. I think it's a reinforcement that I've made the right choice. To spend that hour getting my body in shape. And a spin-off of that is that I'm feeling better about myself, and I'm feeling uplifted physically and mentally. So I think physical exercise and look, the food we eat, if we have high quality, nutrient dense, good quality, nutritious food, then our body is taken care of. And look, I believe 100%, if we take care of our body throughout our life, and by that I mean, great amount of sleep and mental well-being and the right food and exercise, if we take care of our body throughout our life, our body will take care of us at the end. So food is a big part of feeling good on a continuum. Now, that doesn't mean that if I'm feeling bad about something that I have a piece of fruit and all of a sudden I feel great. No, I don't mean that, but I just think it gives us the underlying resilience if we have a great diet, high nutrient diet, and very little processed food. So it's exercise, it's nutrition, and it's sleep. I am so sold out to the belief, based on scientific research, that that sleep is probably the single most important thing we can do for physical and mental well-being. And any parent out there of young children knows that if their young child gets a poor night's sleep, then the next day is going to be a tough day. That child is going to be upset, it's going to be stressed, it's going to be anxious, and every parent has experienced that. And that's why we absolutely insist our kids are asleep by 7:30 every night. Now, most Malaysians think that's crazy, but we just created the environment from day one, and it's the easiest thing in the world. They want to go to bed. and they're asleep of their own accord. We don't put them to sleep; they fall asleep naturally before 7:30, and that's the result of the environment we've created. And I'm a stickler for that
David,
environment.
can you please share how did you create that environment? Because I've seen the boys and I've seen the way they eat, and they eat very consciously of what's there because of the environment. Could you share how? Because there will be viewers who are actually having kids who they want to have a quantum leap. All this while I've been eating all this junk. Now I want my next generation to be better. So how can I create? Because I see, and I always say that we should start journaling and write a book about how your kids are growing up and how, as a family, you guys have put these things together. So can you please share, because it would help.
Well, with regard to sleep, Siva, it's asking me that question is like asking me how did I teach my children English? I didn't. They just picked up English, and so the sleep is just because that was the routine from day one. You know, I mean, when newborn babies they sleep a lot, and then they get into a routine sleep of a night, then a nap in the morning, and then a nap in the afternoon. When they get a bit older, it's just one nap during the day, and then when they get a bit older, they don't need a nap at all. But right through that, we just said, okay, then 7 p.m. is bedtime. And we've created a routine. And Romla and I and the two boys, we go into their room. We have a mat on the floor, a thin mattress on the floor. The four of us get there. Romla reads to them. Then I make up stories, and they love both of those routines. And then after the story, we say, okay, boys, it's time for sleep. And sometimes within 3 minutes, max 5 minutes, they're sound asleep. And it's just because that's what we've always done. And now, had we have let our children stay awake till 10 p.m., 11 p.m., but then at 6 years old say, okay, now you've got to go to sleep at 7, then that'd be tough. Doable, but tough. But having done it right from the start, then it was the easiest thing in the world. It's like my children learning English. I didn't make any effort. And so it's effortless to put them to bed at that time if you start right at the beginning. And similar with regard to food. I mean, my boys have never had anything from an animal. They eat eggs. They have never had cow's milk. They don't eat any meat or fish or seafood at all. They don't eat cheese. And so they don't want to. If somebody at school gives them, and there was an experience recently at my son's preschool, someone gave him the teacher gave him a candy bar because he did something right or something like that as a reward. And he said, no, thanks, I don't want that. And so now that doesn't mean that our kids are not going to do the wrong thing with regard to food. Of course they are. I don't expect them to go through life and not eat a candy bar. They will, of course, but I'm hoping that I can lay the foundation for it. So it comes down to, in parenting, it's the resolve that you have, and the earlier you make the decision, the better it will be. But I just know how important sleep is, and that's why we won't compromise on that. It interferes with our lifestyle a little bit, I guess. We can't go out as a family, late at night. But, my children's health is more important than any lifestyle choice we might make. So I know that it's just critically important.
Yeah. There's one more question, David. So one of your secret weapon, in the sense of when you're having adversity for you to bounce back, you said there's two. One is exercise, physical. Another one is food. Now let's talk about food again for a moment. Now the food is basically whole food, right? Now there might be some people who are actually listening to this. They say, whole food, for them, they might have a misconception that whole food means it's expensive. Right? Now, can you elaborate on that? How can you simplify where anyone can enjoy whole food? What do you mean by whole food? How can you make it affordable? I know that you can get any kind of vegetable. You can get anything which is whole, and then you can just cook and eat. But from your perspective, how can you make it to be simplified?
Yeah, well, I mean, whole food just means food that's not processed, and Plant-based obviously means that nothing that's from an animal. So it's just plant-based, and you go to the fruit and vegetable section and there's your whole food and no need to go anywhere else. And so that's really what it comes down to. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it can be if you go to the organic section, which we prefer. Then you do pay a bit more. But even I've heard whole food plant-based specialists saying that, look, if you're eating a good whole food plant-based diet, then organic is less important because your body's getting enough nutritions to be able to combat the toxins that come with normal fruit and vegetables. But organic is better, but obviously it is more expensive. But I think meat is probably expensive. I don't know because I don't buy it, but I would think that meat is more expensive than vegetables. And it's just, look, our food is just our habit. I see some people, and I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced it. You see in the shopping mall, overweight or obese parents who have overweight or obese children. And, I've heard some people say, yeah, but, my diabetes is, my father had diabetes, so it's genetic. I've inherited the diabetes from my father. The science doesn't necessarily agree with that, the science that I've read anyway. What you've likely inherited is your parents' poor lifestyle choices, which have led to your obesity, which has led to your diabetes. It's less likely to be genetic. So certainly we've inherited things from our parents, but lifestyle choices rather than genes in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So, it's just, I'm not sure if I've answered your question. I think
you did. A whole food can be cheaper than meat if you really choose the ones. I remember our parents or grandparents used to eat this effortlessly because they just have to go to their backyard and just plug out some stuff and cook. It's whole food, right? They get things from from their compound. They do that. And that is something, in many cultures, the traditional food is becoming popular again. Like in India, you have this rice with curd, yogurt. You eat that, and also, the rice at night, the additional rice, they'll pour water and then they keep for next day, and it has a lot of bacteria, good bacteria in there for you to drink the water and eat the rice. So it's all coming back again, and it's being served in 5-star hotels for an arm and a leg, which can be done. So I believe it's keeping it simple. It's very important. So it's amazing to have had this conversation with you, my dear friend. For me, it's a lot of information for me. I've been taking notes, right, below here. And thank you so much, David, for being in this conversation with me, and to make this episode fun and towards this journey of being human. I think being human is about also being mindful about having compassion about other being also, right? And that's what you and your daughter, who's actually doing it for the animals that's being butchered, right? So thank you so much. I would like to for you to tell how can the viewers find you? Where could they find you?
Yeah, well, look, I'm not on social media. I think that I'm just not on social media. So I mean, I'm the GM of KZ1. Look, if people wanted to reach out to me, they could make contact with you, and you could pass them my number, my mobile number. I'm happy for people to reach out and ask me any questions that they might have. It would just be contact on my phone number. So if you want to give them that on the screen, that's okay. Or if they reach out to you and your family, your organisation, then by all means pass my contact details on to them.
That's amazing. David, it's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. You have shed a lot of light in something which is very simple. Food is something that is very close to us. If food doesn't reach our mouth to our gut, there'll be a disaster in this world. people will be killing each other for getting control of food. And food is something that a lot of people want to control, commodities. So thank you so much for being in our space. Looking forward to seeing you in person. So have a fantastic day, my dear friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Siva, and I look forward to our next coaching session on next Monday. So thank you for the input that you've had into our lives as well. Very much appreciate you.